You are listening to Balloon Killers. I'm your host, Chrissy Riley, and each episode I'll be talking to someone from the world of cowboy mounted shooting, which is one of the most exciting and fastest growing equestrian sports. Hold on to your hats because it's going to get western. Hello shooters and mounted shooting enthusiasts. In true British fashion, I would be remiss if I didn't start with some talk of the weather, because in this part of Colorado this week we had the first snow of the season, and while I do enjoy getting out the winter woolies, and I also have very romantic notions of sipping cocoa in front of the fire, it is seriously cramping my ability to get out and ride because my dirt arena is basically a slippery death trap right now. And I'm particularly frustrated about this because last weekend I tried out a new shoot for me in McCook, Nebraska, and I had some really good aha learning moments that I wanted to work on this week before the Colorado Regulators shoot on Saturday. But of course, the weather thwarted my plans. The McCook shoot was a 2-day South Dakota-Nebraska border wars, and it was put on by the Dakota Running Irons and the High Plains Shooters at this really great indoor facility in McCook, Nebraska. And I have to shout out everyone who worked so hard to put it on because it was a really fun shoot and it ran so smoothly. I took my little guy, Mr. Bear, for his first overnighter. And other than pooping in his bucket and then throwing the bucket against the wall in the night to wake everyone up, and also pulling my woolen cavalry trousers off the fence while I was shooting main match, trampling them in the dirt and peeing on them, he actually did really well because he isn't much bothered about the shooting. It's pretty much everything else that he doesn't like, namely that one clod of dirt in the bottom right corner of the arena that had plans to come to life and destroy him. It's a darn good job that he tries so hard and he's so cute, I can tell you that much. I really slowed down in my approach to that shoot, and it was great because I was able to analyze where things were working and where things weren't working with my usual main match horse. So while it wasn't a great success for me in terms of where I placed, well, let's be real, it never really is these days, it was a really great learning experience, and that's all that counts. This episode, my guest is a senior men's level 6 from the state of Iowa. He's been competing in mounted shooting for over 20 years and is one of the original founders of the Iowa CMSA Club. Carl Watson and his family have helped several CMSA clubs get off the ground, and they have also assisted with many demonstrations, clinics, and competitions through the years. He holds many state and regional titles, and in 2017, he won the rifle at the Nationals Saturday Night Showcase. Not only is he a successful mounted shooter, he's also a leather craftsman who specializes in custom mounted shooting holsters and scabbards. You can find his really beautiful work on Facebook at Watson Custom Leather, and I highly recommend you take a look. Hi Carl, how are you doing today?
Awesome, Chrissy. It's a beautiful day here in Southwest Iowa.
It is a beautiful day here too, and I do love a beautiful day. So you are located in Southwest Iowa. What's your local club, your local mounted shooting club?
We're located near Creston, Iowa, and our local club is the Iowa CMSA. Our family helped originate the club about 25 years ago. So this year was our 25th anniversary for the club. And we've also been instrumental in assisting other clubs getting going over the years, getting organized and launched in both Iowa and Missouri, which included hosting clinics and the whole deal, along with getting clubs off the ground.
Nice. So there's quite a big presence in your area.
There's a growing presence. Yes.
That's great. Well, we just started a new shooting year, but how was the last shooting year for you? What were some of your successes and challenges?
Well, actually, the last 2 years have been filled with a lot of challenges. Um, if I rewind the clock a little bit more, starting in about 2018, my wife had a health issue and continues to provide us with some challenges. But along with that, our main shooting horses got old and we didn't have any young stuff in the pipeline. But since then, we've changed that, and I want to talk a little bit more about my main shooting horse. Even though he's getting a little older, he's an AQHA Palomino stallion. He's still with us, but he's getting up there in years. We've hauled him throughout the Midwest over the years, as far north as Buffalo, Minnesota, and Stevens Point, Wisconsin. As far south as Houston, Texas. We've shot as far east as in Illinois, and as far west, across South Dakota and Nebraska and into Wyoming. Over the years, we had a lot of success with him. He earned champion shooting horse credentials through CMSA, and that was a program that's a precursor to the current fraternity program. I think he's one of the very few living stallions with those credentials at the present time. But we have a couple of colts that are showing some promise. They're really young, and we're expecting a couple more colts out of him this next spring. So our shooting horses got old. I've got new young ones coming on. I did have one that I shot with a little bit post COVID. We had some fleeting moments of success and along with quite a bit of personal frustration. um, he was a gelding that we raised. My daughter showed in 4-H. They had a lot of success with him in 4-H and that sort of thing. And my daughters, they went off to college, and I thought, well, here's my next shooting horse. He's standing out here. I'm feeding him, so we might as well get some use out of him.
Mhm.
The more I shot with him, the more I realized that he didn't like mounted shooting. And so right now, he has the opportunity to live his best life with somebody else. He's no longer with us. So during last couple of years, 23 and 24, I've tried to focus more on the leather business as we've been training some young colts and that sort of thing. And we have certainly been blessed by our many friends that's become customers and sporting Watson custom leather holsters.
So it sounds like you might have some exciting things in the works with your colts that are upcoming. So we'll stay tuned to see how that plays out. But you mentioned that you started the Iowa CMSA Club 25 years ago. So that means you've probably been shooting for a very long time. Tell us about how you got into mounted shooting.
Oh, thanks for making me feel really old, Chrissy. I appreciate that. But yeah, 26, 27 years ago, I was affiliated with an NCOWS club. NCOWS is National Congress of Old West Shooters. And quite frankly, I cannot tell you for sure if they're still an organization or not. But at that time, that organization was very similar to SAS.
Mhm.
And a lot of your listeners will be familiar with the Single Action Shooting Society. But I was at one of these in-house events, and the group that goes around, we're shooting lead bullets at steel targets, and there's several different Old West scenarios, movie themes, and that sort of thing. And those in the smaller groups were called posses. And during one of those shoots, I noticed one of the other members was using his horse to carry the ammunition, the live ammunition, from one stage to the next. And I thought that was really smart because the rest of us were trying to carry a lot of ammunition around and it was really heavy. We're using saddlebags and shooting carts and that sort of thing. So I saw him using his horse, and his horse never flinched at all whenever the gunfire was going off and that sort of thing. So I started talking to him about using horses in the sport. And then about that time, we learned about the Cowboy Mounted Shooting Association. So we got really excited about that, and we organized the local club, and so to speak, the rest is history. We had a very small group of us that got it started, and the club has really grown. It's taken off, and there's a lot of enthusiasm in the state of Iowa about mounted shooting right now.
So were you a horseman before you started mounted shooting, or did the horse piece come after the shooting?
I've always had horses. I grew up and still own a small farm down in Missouri. We raised cattle and used horses more like a tool than having them as a family member, so to speak. But so I've always had horses. We worked the cattle with them. We did some rodeos and that sort of thing on the side. My girls, when they were younger, all the way through up through high school, they were involved in 4-H and FFA, and they showed horses. We've always had horses around, and it just seemed like a logical step for us to take our shooting game when we were with that in-cows group to kind of step up and do the shooting from horseback. It seemed like a natural step, and so we gave it a try. And just like everybody else you've interviewed, Chrissy, we were hooked from the start, and we really love the sport.
You've been shooting for such a long time that the sport must have changed in that time. How has it changed since you started?
It has changed quite a bit. We've been, like we said, shooting for about 25 years, and it was a very small group of people that got it started. I think there was four of us initially. And we started doing clinics, and any place that would allow us to showcase our mounted shooting event. Whatever the venue was, we would do it. And a lot of times we shot in open pastures. We've shot on grass, different fairs, festivals, and that sort of thing. We've tried to promote the sport quite a bit, and started getting more people interested and hosting the clinics and that sort of thing. Got more horses trained and involved. Our first competition we held was with an in-cows event, and it was in an open pasture. We had some new riders, people that were brand new to horses that competed there. Unfortunately, one of them became dehorsed, as we sometimes say. And being in an wide open pasture, I think it was somewhere around a 200-acre pasture. It took us a little while to get that horse rounded up, but we finally got it done. But through all the trials and turmoil, everybody just had a good time, supported each other, and just really enjoyed the sport and tried to keep it going. We've done fun events throughout the years. Early on, one of the more memorable ones, a gentleman had a paintball town where he would host different competitions, and people would show up and select a team, and they would shoot paintballs at each other. But he had this little town set up as a scenario for them, and he asked us if we would like to use it. And we took one look at it, and unanimously, we all said yes, we wanted to give it a try. So we took the cones and the poles and the balloons, and we set them in doorways and windows of this little paintball town. And we rode our horses through the middle of it, shooting at those targets through the doorways and windows. And we had a lot of fun doing that. But over time, we've got more people interested. The sport's really growing and changing. But even with all those changes and more people coming in, it seems like here in Iowa, we still have that family-like atmosphere, and everybody supports each other. So that's pretty cool.
I think we should advocate for towns to shoot through in CMSA competitions, because I think that would be awesome. It would make me feel like I was on the set of some crazy Wild West movie.
It was a lot of fun. Yes, I'd have to admit to that.
So you maybe have already talked about this in your description of how you started shooting and, how it's changed. But what do you love about the sport?
I really enjoy watching people develop their skills and their horsemanship. I like watching the horses, and as they get better stage after stage, and just being around that family-like atmosphere where everybody supports each other. Those are some of the things that I really enjoy. Um, Also, along with that, being involved in cowboy mounted shooting gives us a pretty darn good excuse to collect a lot of different cowboy gear. So bits and spurs and guns and that sort of things.
Yeah, I'm falling into that trap, and my collection of things is quickly growing. I have more pairs of chinks than I need.
It's a benefit. It's not a trap, Chrissy. It's a benefit of being involved in the sport. I get a
Uh-huh.
lot of personal satisfaction watching people get started in the sport. And I cheer especially loud for those people that are supporting our gun leather and using our scabbards. So, as people have success, it's kind of like watching someone that's been through a mounted shooting clinic where you've coached them, or someone's coached them through, and they're starting to have some success. I get a lot of personal satisfaction when people have success with our gun leather.
So, on that note, please tell us about your leather work and sort of how you got into it, the kind of things that you make.
Sure. I've been involved with doing the leather work for decades now. It started out as a 4-H project, so that's been several years ago. And we try to always strive to make the very best holster rigs and scabbards that can be available to mounted shooters. While through the years, when I was in 4-H, I made several different projects, as you would, exhibited them at county and regional fairs, and along with the Missouri State Fair. And one of the memories that I have, it was one of the later years that I was in 4-H. I had tooled up a clock. So I had a floral tooled border on the outside. It had a horse head in the middle, and it made it to the Missouri State Fair. And down there at the fair, uh, it was awarded a purple ribbon. But one particular day while I was in the 4-H building, a lady was walking through and she saw that clock and she took it down off the display and was looking at it, looking on the backside of it and that sort of thing. And I asked her what she was looking for, and she said she was looking for the maker because she wanted to buy it. And I told her, I said, I don't think it's for sale. And she said, well, how do you know that? And I told her, because I made it. We still have it. It hangs here in the house. But, after I got out of 4-H, there were several years I didn't make anything at all, just did some minor repairs and that sort of thing with our own horse tacking gear. But more recently, we've started doing a lot more leather work, and we make a wide range of small items that include purses and wallets, belts, knife sheaths, carry conceal holsters. I've made a few pairs of chaps, probably half a dozen pair of chinks, some other attack items. Um, my youngest daughter has started helping with making some earrings, and you can see some of those on our Facebook page. And then, of course, along with that, we make the cell phone saddle pockets and mounted shooting holsters and scabbards. Most of the pictures on our Facebook page are of those scabbards and holster rigs.
Yeah, I fell down the rabbit hole of your Facebook page a couple of nights ago, and I was like, oh my goodness, there is so much good stuff on here that I want to buy. And again, add more to my growing collection of mounted shooting things.
Well, that's an amazing compliment. Thanks, Chrissy. Our holster rigs, we try to make sure that they're custom fitted to the person, and then we also custom tool or stamp them that incorporate different brands or initials or other unique figures that's requested by our customers. Typically, if you go on our Facebook page, you'll see there's two types of holsters that I try to specialize in. We refer to one of them being a double buckle rig and the second being an over the shoulder rig. And then the scabbards we make, they're designed because of all the years that I've been doing the mounted shooting and doing the long gun competitions as well. I know people like to hang scabbards in different ways, different locations on their saddle. So I try to make those scabbards so that they can meet all those different needs, where they can hang them on behind the rider on one of the flank cinches or across the front swells, or hang vertically down on either the left or the right side of the saddle. And those scabbards are designed to accommodate either a shotgun or a lever action rider or rifle. That way, the rider doesn't have to change the scabbard in between a shotgun and rifle stage. The scabbard fits both.
So, if people are listening to this and they want to check out your gear, where should they go and do they order from you?
Well, they can check out the items that we've made on Watson Custom Leather. My daughter manages that Facebook page, and you can private message her. More than likely, what she's going to do is give you my cell phone number to have someone that's interested that contact me directly, and then I can kind of walk through the steps. I I like to measure people when I take those orders, so I make sure that the belts fit just right.
So, I asked this question of everybody because I just think it's really interesting to hear what people choose. But tell us about your balloon poppers.
Well, I got started a long time ago. So I shoot the old style Ruger Vaqueros. I had a pair of those when I was doing the ground shooting, and I really liked them, especially from a safety standpoint. And like I said, I shoot the old style. So they're the precursor to what's referred to as the new model, and they were made actually before the Montadas. They're a heavier gun, but what I really liked about them, especially a horseback, the Rugers have a transfer bar for a safety. So the only way that those Rugers will fire is you have to pull the hammer all the way back and you have to pull the trigger. They will not go off if you do one, just one or the other. You have to do both in sequence. So if something happens, your horse spooks, blows up, things go really bad, the gun's not going to accidentally go off unless you pull the hammer all the way back and squeeze the trigger. That's the only way it'll go off. So it's from a safety standpoint, that was really important to me because my daughters were very young at that time and they were getting started. And as wranglers, a lot of times we'll see wranglers carrying toy guns and that sort of thing. Um, when I got my daughter started, they carried the real guns. I just loaded them with snap caps from a safety standpoint so that they were learning how to handle those revolvers from a very young age and taught them a lot of gun safety. But old style Rugers, they're very reliable, very durable. They're easy to clean. If I have trouble with any of the springs, and over time, we've been shooting for 25 years. Over time, we've had some spring issues. I've broken a couple of transfer bars just from use.
Mhm.
That's just normal wear and tear. So they're very easy to repair, get parts for. Um, just pop the parts in, and when you're doing a deep clean on them, and put them back together and ready to go. So I'm a big fan of those old style Ruger Vaqueros, and they're not easy to find anymore. I try to keep an eye on some of the gun auctions and that sort of thing. And whenever I see an old style Ruger Vaquero or suspect that there might be one on an auction, I try to take the time to be there. And quite frankly, a couple of weeks ago, I scored because there was an estate auction that had a matched pair of the old style Ruger Vaqueros. They were not consecutive serial numbers, but they were a matched pair. So brand new in the box, never been fired. So I feel
Wow.
like I scored pretty good.
What's the one shoot that you don't miss each year, and why don't you miss it?
Well, there's a lot of really good shoots, different competitions hosted by a wide variety of different clubs, and it's really hard to point to one. But the biggest one, or the one that sticks out in my mind, is a local shoot here in Creston. The Travis Quarter Horse Shoot. It's hosted by the Iowa CMSA. The last few years has been very well attended, which is very reflective of the great hosting that Bruce Travis and his family do at that shoot. They do a really super job making sure everybody's welcome and that everyone has a great experience. They think of everything from the camping, getting that organized and making sure people get pulled in and set up, making sure the arenas are ready to go. They're fortunate enough to have two different arenas, so when the shoot gets big, we can keep things going by having back-to-back stages in separate arenas. And of course, there's always great food. I think it's one of the best shoots of the year. Iowa CMSA is the hosting club for this event, and the club strives to keep this as a low cost, family friendly event. So I'm going to point to that one as being one shoot that not to miss. It's pretty good.
It's one of the things I love about hosting this podcast is that I get to speak to people located all over and I get to hear about all of these really cool shoots and I write every single one down for like a bucket list. So hopefully one day I will make it over to that shoot because that one sounds really good. What is your favorite pattern and why? Now I know you must have shot all of the patterns many, many times by this point. So what is your favorite?
We have shot quite a few of the patterns. Some of them are in the rule book. Some of the patterns have migrated out of the rule book and that sort of thing. But I tell you that my favorite pattern is what I refer to as a small octagon. It's course number 50. It can be ran really smooth with just a little bit of an S curve. And when your horse does a flying lead change as he goes up through it, it can be really fast and really smooth.
What's the win that you're most proud of and why?
I've been blessed with several good horses. My stallion, as well as a couple of geldings we have had out of him, and we've accumulated a few wins over the years. But there's a couple of wins that come to mind right away. The first one was a win with a Saturday night showcase in the rifle competition at Nationals in 2017. The competition was very good and it included a lot of really top competitors. I was fortunate enough to make it back. I was in the 10th hole. So on the Saturday night showcase, that meant I was the first one out. We laid down a really fast, really smooth time, ran through it, and coincidentally, it's course number 50, that small octagon. And when all the dust cleared, smoke cleared, we had the fastest time, and I was clean that night. So I got to take home the rifle. So that was pretty cool. A second one that comes to mind, it was a really small local shoot. There wasn't a lot up for grabs. I think there's only 20 odd shooters at it. But what was really cool about it is that I won a buckle, my oldest daughter won a buckle, and my youngest daughter won a buckle. So as a family, we all buckled, and that was pretty darn special.
Oh, I love that. I love that that's one of your favorites because it was a family event for you all.
Another one comes to mind that I got to mention as well. We hauled our stallion to the AQHA Worlds twice, 2 years in a row. And at that time, it was held in conjunction with the Ranch Horse Versatility Show in Houston, Texas. And 2 years in a row, Zip and I finished in the top five in the open class. We didn't win a trophy, no buckles, but being in the top five in the open class is pretty darn special.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So, most people listening to this podcast will know Carl Watson for mounted shooting and for your leather work. But what's a little known fact about you that might surprise some of the mounted shooters listening?
Yeah, I really struggled with this question, and I had to quiz my daughters a little bit and got some input from them on it, Chrissy. But something that a lot of people may not know is that I'm a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. Proudly served from 1986 to 1992. I earned several ribbons and medals across multiple deployments with the Marines. And I transitioned out in 1992 as an E6, a staff sergeant in the United States Marine Corps.
Well, thank you so much for your service. What is the most useful thing in your trailer? I'm guessing you've been on the road a lot, given that you've hauled your stallion pretty much all over the US. So, what's the most useful thing in your trailer when you're on the road, and what should we all have?
Over the years, Chrissy, we keep accumulating and adding to what those essentials are. I'm going to be maybe a little more general than what some of the other podcast people have stated, but having emergency roadside equipment and first aid gear is critically important. So examples of that, being able to change a flat tire, impact wrenches, breaker bars. I even carry a 6 foot long cheater pipe for a breaker bar for those really tough nuts that just get real stubborn. Other tools to troubleshoot minor electrical issues, test lights, having extra fuses, an extra breaker to pop into that box in the living quarters. We've had to do that a couple of times. Making sure that all the safety equipment from smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors are working. And then, of course, first aid for both people and your horses, having that along. That list can get quite long, but having that first aid can be life saving.
Yeah, it sounds like you are very well prepared. So, what's next? What are your plans and ambitions for the future?
Well, we've got a couple of young colts that we're training. I've got a 2 year old that is showing a lot of promise. I'm looking forward to continuing to train him through the winter months, and then we have a younger brother to him that's coming on. He's a yearling. We're going to start him next spring. We're looking forward to that. I also have a couple more out of our old stallion that's due to foal. A couple mares are due to foal next spring. So we got some young horses that's coming on. I'm really looking forward to getting them um, trained up and back on the road and doing some mounted shooting with them. In the meantime, I'm going to continue to refine, improve my leather work, attend some different shows and that sort of thing, some trade shows and that sort of thing to keep refining my skills and get better at that so I can make better quality holsters as we go forward. Now, one time someone asked me what was the best holster rig I ever made, and I keep telling people that it's my next one. I keep trying to get better at it.
I love that. And know that I will be looking out for you in the future at shoots and with your leather work. I want to thank you so much, Carl, for taking the time to talk to me today. It was really great to chat with you.
It's been my honor, and thank you so much for asking me, Chrissy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Carl, for taking the time to talk to me. As a reminder, if you're interested in drooling over Carl's leatherwork, check out his Facebook page, Watson Custom Leather, which is also linked in the show notes. I love the diversity and the backgrounds of the talented guests that I interview, and I hope that you all do too. So on that note, as always, if there are balloon killers you would like to hear interviewed, please email me on balloonkillers@gmail.com. That's balloonkillers, all one word, @gmail.com.